Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Kellie de Leon with Treasure Data, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Saul Rashidi, SVP Chief Analytics Officer at the Estee Lauder Companies. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
When you're thinking about your role in, centralizing customer data and making sure that's used by all of these systems that marketers and other business teams might be using, what are some of the more, sort of creative ways of thinking or opportunities that you see going forward in how companies can use customer data to engage and to communicate if they really have all of that pipeline right?
There are no boundaries. It's limitless. I always say we spend most of our time trying to find the data. It's like an Easter egg hunt. And then when we find the data, putting the data together and then figuring out which data sets should come together, which ones don't come together, which ones you're forcing together, which ones naturally flow together. It's a lot of forensic work. So if you're able to create that capability where you've removed that from the equation, you're freeing up so much more time to just think about the business and the problem and how to solve for it than just doing forensics work. I think the other option is, oftentimes things are funded through use cases. Do we have a real business use case? We do. Okay, great. We're going to consolidate, whether it's customer data, consumer data, depends on your vernacular within your industry. We're going to consolidate it, single location. We're going to build, normalize, aggregate, et cetera. There are going to be businesses and functions that are going to take the data, they're used to seeing it, and continue to run their reports, their operational reports. What you've done is given them time back. Mm-hmm. But I also encourage companies to stand up teams where they're not as descriptive or prescriptive in their day-to-day. Their job is to generate new insights. So now that you've got a mashup of new data sets coming together, there should be some free time built within the week across some of your high performance individuals. And their only job is uncover what hasn't been uncovered before. That's part of generating new insights. And then our job is really to go back to the business and go, we started exploring, we started doing some forensics on our own. Here's some light discoveries. Did you know? But what's the business reason for that? Because we don't know the business context. We just see what the data shows us. And if you're willing, and if you have partners, folks from the business who are willing to have that conversation with you, it's actually magical what happens, because then it becomes a negotiation. The business is going to say that happens because of this, but we're going to say that's not what we're seeing in the data. And then you actually start having the conversation of, if it's a good partnership, well, let's get so-and-so's lens. Let's get so-and-so's lens and then figure out, oh, wait, did we make certain assumptions? And so now we've got this opinion bias that's going in from the business side, or did we fundamentally miss certain assumptions in the data discovery work that we've now got to embed, but we've now increased our subject matter expertise of the business, and they're now viewing what's happening through the data in a different lens. And then you actually come up with some really, really glorious findings. And we've done some in the past around our loyalty members, who is truly valued and who's not, consumer lifetime value, where the stickiness factor is, who are the consumers that even though it's not repetitive or it's not the volumes that we want, their tenureship and then their network is actually more valuable to us than the actual consumers themselves. That's where some of the magic happens. So yes, consolidating, centralizing the data, amazing. That should happen anyway, because you're freeing up time for the business to do their business. But some folks are just going to look at it as time savings. Thank you. But I think where the real magic happens is pick a few partners where you're just doing exploration and experimental work with data that they've never had access before. And then, you start from there.
I love that perspective because, certainly creating that connected data fabric is, step one of that is removing the data disconnects and the data silos. But we really see that same power of the idea of removing the insight disconnect as well, right? If folks are looking at different data, or even if they're looking at the same data, but taking two different insights, based on their frame of reference or what they know, you can kind of get everyone centralized around that connected data. How then can we uncover new opportunities? Efficiency being the start, but then what's the next step for growth and innovation that can be powered by this time and this opportunity and the connected insights that can come from that?
That's precisely it. I mean, you did an amazing summary. You did a much better job than I did. Thank you. But that's exactly it. Just to kind of make it more real and tangible. An example, and the first time I learned this was, when you're going through and you're trying to come up with an aggregate numeric value of how much a consumer is worth, right, within our ecosystem. Well, what do you naturally do? You look at what they've purchased, how many times they've purchased, right? So the volume, the frequency, the types of products, price per units, whatever your business may be. We were in a case where we said, okay, if we're going to just purely look at the revenue management system, where we attract cost of goods sales and the revenue, this is how much a consumer is worth, and this is how much margin we're making per head. Well, when we decided to centralize and consolidate a bunch of different customer source systems, we actually pulled in the customer care systems, the customer service systems. So the number of calls that were coming into the different call centers. By the way, those systems weren't connected. Mm-hmm. So if you called Jacksonville, they had a different record than if you were to call Wichita, it had a different record, which if you called Tacoma had a different record. So one, the customer service systems weren't connected. And then two, the customer service centers weren't connected with the revenue management systems. So we were in an endeavor where we pulled it all in the middle. And what we discovered is even though we were making a ton of margin on a certain consumer profile, when you actually combined how many times they complained and how many times we comped them because they were tagged as high value consumers, we were awash or losing money on them. And no one had ever known that before. Now, I will admit, I don't want to say we accidentally stumbled upon this, but we did carve out a few hours every Friday. And our job was not to do and work on the projects and programs and deliverables and timelines that we were assigned to. This was just free thinking. And so our job is even though we've provided business value by consolidating all the information and we've given them time back, our job is also to generate new insights without biased business context. But we would work in partnership with the business to go, why is this happening? And we discovered when we combined all the source systems, well, if I were to take a unique ID or profile from the revenue management system and how much we were generating with all the times that same profile complained and got comped, well, the number was completely different from what we'd started with. And so now we actually started providing, when you go to a grocery store, CVS or Duane Reade or the 7-Eleven, there's the do not take a check from this person.
Yes.
We had a list of the top 100 complainers who'd learned how to game the system because their systems weren't interconnected. And we're like, if this person calls, no more comps. And every day we had the list being distributed to the call centers because we were fundamentally losing money. They were spending money with us, but we comped them so much, we were now officially losing money. That's magic, right? That's where this stuff really comes from.
That is where the magic
people
happens.
Really get to talk about. Yeah.
I wanted to just say thank you so much, Saul, for joining me today. This has been a really great conversation digging into challenges and really opportunities that are available when companies can get data right. So thank you for taking the time. Please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Kelly. I do appreciate all the great questions. The conversation definitely flowed really easily. So I did appreciate working with you. And a big thank you to CDO Magazine.